Most people believe celebrities make cars famous. But sometimes, the exact opposite happens. There are automobiles so legendary that they became part of a person's identity. Machines that were photographed thousands of times, appeared on magazine covers, inspired millions of fans, and are still remembered decades later. When you hear the name Elvis Presley, one car immediately comes to mind. Mention Steve McQueen, and enthusiasts instantly picture a Mustang. Say Paul Walker, and almost everyone thinks of a blue Nissan Skyline. These weren't just expensive vehicles sitting inside luxury garages. They became symbols of entire generations, representing freedom, speed, success, rebellion, or pure automotive passion. Some of these cars were driven so often that they became inseparable from their owners, while others gained worldwide fame after appearing in unforgettable photographs, movies, races, or public events. In many cases, the car itself became as recognizable as the celebrity behind the wheel. The fascinating part is that these legends weren't always the fastest, the most expensive, or the rarest cars ever built. Their true value came from the stories attached to them. Every scratch, every road trip, every race, every interview, and every public appearance added another chapter to their history. Fans didn't simply admire the celebrities. They dreamed about driving the same cars, owning the same models, or experiencing the same feeling of freedom. Automakers quickly realized the enormous influence these famous owners had, and before long, certain vehicles became cultural icons almost overnight. Decades later, many of these automobiles are worth millions of dollars, not only because of their engineering, but because they carry pieces of history that can never be recreated. Today, we're taking a journey through some of the most iconic celebrity cars ever owned. From rock stars and Hollywood actors to racing legends and sports superstars, these incredible machines left an impact far beyond the automotive world. Some changed the value of entire car models forever. Others became museum pieces, while a few continue to inspire collectors willing to spend fortunes just to own a small piece of automotive history. These are the cars that became legends. Not because they were driven by famous people, but because together, the driver and the machine created stories that the world will never forget. If there is one celebrity whose name became permanently linked to a car, it has to be Elvis Presley. Long before celebrities filled social media with photos of exotic supercars, Elvis was already turning automobiles into symbols of status and personality. But among the hundreds of vehicles he owned throughout his life, one stood above all the others, the legendary 1955 pink Cadillac Fleetwood. Interestingly, the car wasn't originally pink. Elvis first bought a blue Cadillac for his mother, but after an accident destroyed it, he purchased another one and had it repainted in a custom shade of pink known as Elvis Rose. At a time when large chrome-covered American luxury cars dominated the roads, this Cadillac became something completely unique. Its enormous body, massive tail fins, gleaming chrome bumpers, elegant white-wall tires, and luxurious interior perfectly reflected the optimism and extravagance of 1950s America. Soon, photographs of Elvis stepping out of the pink Cadillac appeared in newspapers and magazines around the world, transforming the car into one of the most recognizable automobiles in history. It became so famous that Cadillac dealerships displayed pink models to attract customers. Musicians referenced it in songs, and fans began associating the color pink itself with Elvis Presley. Even decades after his passing, the pink Cadillac remains one of the strongest symbols of rock and roll culture, proving that sometimes a car can become just as legendary as the superstar who drove it. While Elvis represented glamour and luxury, Steve McQueen represented something completely different. Nicknamed the King of Cool, McQueen wasn't simply an actor pretending to love cars. He was a genuine racing enthusiast who competed in motorcycles and sports cars whenever he wasn't filming. Although he owned an incredible collection that included Ferraris, Jaguars, and Porsches, the car forever connected to his name is the 1968 Ford Mustang GT Fastback from the movie Bullitt. The Highland Green Mustang wasn't loaded with luxury features or exotic technology, but it possessed something far more valuable: character. Its long hood, muscular stance, roaring 390 cubic inch V8 engine, and unmistakable growl made it feel alive in a way few cars ever have. The famous chase through the steep streets of San Francisco completely changed Hollywood forever. Unlike many action scenes of the era, the sequence relied on real driving instead of visual tricks, allowing audiences to feel every gear change, every tire squeal, and every jump over the city's hills. Much of the driving was performed by professionals, but McQueen himself insisted on doing many scenes, making the performance feel authentic. The success of Bullitt elevated the Mustang from an already popular muscle car into an international icon. More than 50 years later, Ford continues producing special Bullitt editions, and in 2020 the original movie car sold at auction for over $3.7 million, demonstrating that its cultural value had become even greater than its engineering. If Steve McQueen inspired one generation of enthusiasts, Paul Walker inspired another. To millions of fans around the world, Paul wasn't just the face of Fast and Furious. He was a genuine car enthusiast whose passion existed long before Hollywood discovered him. Among the many Japanese performance cars he owned, none became more legendary than the Nissan Skyline GTR R34. By the early 2000s, the Skyline had already earned an almost mythical reputation in Japan thanks to its advanced all-wheel drive system, twin-turbocharged RB26 engine, incredible tuning potential, and dominance in motorsports. But outside Japan, relatively few people truly understood what made the R34 so special. That changed almost overnight when Paul Walker's Skyline appeared on movie screens. Its aggressive body kit, distinctive blue paint, iconic racing graphics, and unmistakable engine sound captured the imagination of an entire generation. Suddenly, the Skyline wasn't just another Japanese sports car. It became the dream car of millions of young enthusiasts across the globe. What made Paul's connection even more meaningful was that his love for these machines continued off-camera. He collected Skylines, Supras, BMW M3s, and countless other performance cars, spending his free time driving, racing, and discussing automobiles with fellow enthusiasts rather than simply displaying them as status symbols. Today, the R34 GTR has become one of the most valuable Japanese performance cars ever built, with pristine examples selling for extraordinary prices, largely because one passionate actor helped introduce its legend to the world. These three automobiles couldn't be more different from one another. One symbolized the luxury and optimism of post-war America. Another became the face of Hollywood's greatest driving movie. The third transformed Japanese performance cars into global icons. Yet they all shared one extraordinary characteristic. They stopped being ordinary automobiles and became part of popular culture itself. Long after the cameras stopped rolling and the concerts ended, these machines continue to inspire collectors, filmmakers, designers, and enthusiasts across the world. They remind us that the greatest celebrity cars aren't remembered because they were expensive. They're remembered because they became unforgettable pieces of history. Owning an extraordinary car is one thing. Building an entire collection filled with some of the rarest automobiles ever created is something else entirely. Few people in the world have dedicated as much of their lives to preserving automotive history as television host Jay Leno. While many celebrities purchase expensive cars simply to show off their wealth, Leno became famous for a completely different reason. He actually drives them. His garage, often described as one of the greatest private automotive collections on Earth, houses well over 100 cars ranging from steam-powered vehicles from the early 1900s to cutting-edge hypercars. Yet among all of them, one machine has always held a special place, the legendary McLaren F1. Introduced in the early 1990s by engineer Gordon Murray, the McLaren F1 wasn't designed to break sales records or dominate luxury showrooms. It was built with a single purpose: to become the greatest driver's car ever created. Every detail reflected that philosophy. The central driving position placed the driver in the exact middle of the cabin, providing perfect visibility and balance. The naturally aspirated 6.1-liter BMW V12 engine produced remarkable power without relying on turbochargers, while the extensive use of carbon fiber kept the car astonishingly light. Even today, decades after its debut, many enthusiasts still consider the McLaren F1 the greatest supercar ever built. Jay Leno has repeatedly said that despite owning countless exotic machines, the F1 delivers one of the purest driving experiences imaginable. Its value has skyrocketed over the years, with pristine examples now selling for more than $20 million, proving that true engineering masterpieces only become more appreciated with time. Another collection that commands enormous respect throughout the automotive world belongs to fashion icon Ralph Lauren. Known globally for creating one of the most recognizable luxury clothing brands, Lauren has spent decades quietly assembling a garage that many museums would envy. Unlike collectors who chase sheer quantity, he focused almost entirely on acquiring the finest examples of automotive design ever produced. The undeniable centerpiece of his collection is the Ferrari 250 GTO, a car often described as the most beautiful and most valuable automobile in history. Built between 1962 and 1964, only 36 examples ever left the Ferrari factory, making it one of the rarest production cars on Earth. But scarcity alone doesn't explain its legendary reputation. The 250 GTO combined breathtaking curves with extraordinary racing performance, winning prestigious endurance races while looking more like a sculpture than a machine. Under its elegant body sat a glorious 3.0-liter V12 engine capable of producing a sound that enthusiasts still describe as one of the greatest in automotive history. Ralph Lauren's example has appeared in some of the world's most prestigious automotive exhibitions, where it is displayed alongside priceless works of art rather than ordinary vehicles. In recent years, Ferrari 250 GTOs have sold privately for well over $70 million, making them among the most expensive cars ever exchanged. Yet collectors agree that their true value lies not only in the money they command, but in the history they carry, representing an era when beauty, engineering, and racing success came together in perfect harmony. If Jay Leno represents variety and Ralph Lauren represents elegance, comedian Jerry Seinfeld represents pure devotion to a single brand. Few people outside the Porsche community realize just how serious his passion truly is. Over the years, Seinfeld has owned dozens of Porsches, from early air-cooled classics to some of the rarest racing-derived models ever built. Among them, one car stands above the rest, the Porsche 959. When it debuted in the mid-1980s, the 959 seemed almost impossibly advanced. It featured sophisticated all-wheel drive, electronically controlled suspension, lightweight construction, and twin turbochargers at a time when most sports cars still relied on much simpler technology. It was capable of nearly 200 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest production cars in the world. Ironically, despite being an American celebrity, Seinfeld couldn't legally drive the 959 in the United States for many years because the model failed to meet federal safety regulations. It remained locked away until special legislation known as show or display finally allowed historically significant automobiles like the Porsche 959 to enter the country legally. That unusual story only increased the car's legendary status. Today, the Porsche 959 is recognized as one of the most influential supercars ever built, serving as the technological blueprint for generations of high-performance vehicles that followed. Although their tastes differ dramatically, Jay Leno, Ralph Lauren, and Jerry Seinfeld share something that separates them from ordinary collectors. They never treated automobiles as simple investments or status symbols. Instead, they became caretakers of automotive history, preserving machines that represent some of humanity's greatest achievements in engineering and design. Thanks to passionate collectors like them, many of these legendary cars continue to inspire new generations, proving that sometimes preserving history can be just as important as creating it. By the late 1980s, and especially throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, the automotive world entered a completely different era. Cars were no longer just fast machines or symbols of engineering. They became rolling works of art. Manufacturers like Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, Bugatti, and Pagani weren't simply building transportation anymore. They were creating dreams that only a handful of people on Earth could afford. Naturally, celebrities became some of their biggest customers. Actors, musicians, athletes, and entrepreneurs wanted cars that stood out just as much as they did. Owning a Ferrari or a Lamborghini wasn't only about speed anymore. It was about identity. Every arrival at a movie premiere, every magazine photoshoot, and every paparazzi picture became another opportunity to showcase one of these incredible machines. One of the biggest names associated with Ferrari is Gordon Ramsay. While millions know him as the fiery chef from television, true car enthusiasts know him as one of Ferrari's most passionate collectors. His garage has included some of the rarest Ferraris ever built, including the LaFerrari, the Ferrari Monza SP2, the F12 TDF, the 812 Superfast, and even the legendary Ferrari F40. Ramsay has often described driving as one of his greatest passions outside the kitchen, and Ferrari has become almost an extension of his personality. His collection tells the story of Ferrari's evolution across decades, from analog legends to hybrid hypercars capable of producing nearly 1,000 horsepower. For him, these cars aren't just investments. They're machines meant to be driven, admired, and appreciated. Another celebrity whose garage perfectly reflects modern performance is Cristiano Ronaldo. Throughout his career, Ronaldo has accumulated one of the most valuable private car collections in the world. His lineup includes multiple Bugattis, including the Chiron, the Veyron, and the incredibly rare Bugatti Sinadiasi, a hypercar limited to only 10 examples worldwide. Alongside those sit Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, Rolls-Royces, and Bentleys. What makes Ronaldo's collection fascinating isn't simply its value, it's the variety. Every car represents a different chapter in automotive engineering, from grand touring luxury to extreme track-focused performance. His garage has become almost as famous as his trophy room, showing how deeply supercars have become intertwined with celebrity culture. No discussion about celebrity collections would be complete without Jay Leno. Unlike many famous owners who simply buy expensive cars, Leno is deeply involved with automotive history. His collection includes more than 100 cars and motorcycles ranging from steam-powered automobiles built over a century ago to some of the newest hypercars ever produced. What makes his collection unique is that nearly every vehicle is fully functional. He drives them, restores them, and teaches millions of viewers about their engineering through his television shows and YouTube channel. Walking through Jay Leno's garage is like walking through a living museum where every decade of automotive history still starts with the turn of a key. Then there's Rowan Atkinson, best known around the world as Mr. Bean. Ironically, the actor famous for crashing cars on television is actually an extremely skilled racing driver in real life. One of the most famous cars he ever owned was the McLaren F1, considered by many engineers to be the greatest supercar ever built. Atkinson drove his F1 regularly instead of hiding it in a garage, accumulating tens of thousands of miles. He famously crashed it twice, including one accident so severe that it generated one of the largest insurance claims in British automotive history. Yet after the repairs, he continued driving it exactly as before. Years later, he sold the car for many times what he originally paid, proving that some legendary automobiles become even more valuable after living extraordinary stories. These collections reveal something fascinating about celebrity culture. While fame may buy access to almost anything, the cars people choose often reveal their personalities far better than interviews ever could. Some prefer timeless elegance. Others chase raw speed. Some preserve history, while others constantly pursue the newest technology. But regardless of the badge on the hood, these machines have become much more than transportation. They represent ambition, craftsmanship, and the never-ending human fascination with building something faster, rarer, and more beautiful than what came before. Think about it for a second. Most actors eventually get replaced. James Bond has changed faces for over 60 years. Batman has been played by countless actors. Spider-Man has had multiple versions. Even the Fast and Furious franchise has introduced new protagonists over time. But somehow, the cars never lost their identity. In many cases, audiences remember the vehicle before they remember who was sitting behind the wheel. That's incredibly rare in cinema. Cars became symbols because they represented something deeper than transportation. They represented freedom, rebellion, intelligence, danger, elegance, heroism, and sometimes even friendship. Every great movie needs a visual icon that people instantly recognize, and few things accomplish that better than an unforgettable automobile. One silhouette, one engine sound, one pair of headlights, and millions of people immediately know exactly what they're looking at. Hollywood understood this decades ago. That's why studios invested enormous amounts of time designing vehicles that could almost function as characters. They weren't simply choosing random production cars anymore. Every line, every color, every wheel, every exhaust note, every modification was carefully selected to tell part of the story before the driver even spoke a single word. A black Aston Martin immediately suggested sophistication and confidence. A battered Volkswagen Beetle communicated innocence and charm. A giant Peterbilt truck inspired power and protection. A matte black tumbler looked more like military equipment than transportation, perfectly matching Christopher Nolan's darker version of Batman. These design choices weren't accidents. They became part of the storytelling language of cinema itself. Some of these cars became so influential that they changed the real automotive market. After Bullitt, demand for fastback Mustangs exploded. The DeLorean became immortal despite being a commercial failure. The Toyota Supra achieved legendary status largely because of the Fast and the Furious. Sales of the Audi R8 skyrocketed after Tony Stark made it look like the perfect billionaire's supercar. The Chevrolet Camaro was completely reinvented for a new generation because Bumblebee introduced millions of younger viewers to the nameplate. Manufacturers quickly realized that one successful movie could generate more emotional attachment than years of traditional advertising. Instead of selling horsepower or fuel economy, movies sold dreams. And dreams are far more powerful than specifications on paper. What's even more fascinating is that these vehicles continue attracting new fans decades after their original release. Teenagers who were born 30 years after Back to the Future still recognize the DeLorean. Kids who have never seen the original Knight Rider still know what KITT looks like. New generations continue discovering Herbie, Scooby-Doo, Batman, Transformers, and Fast and Furious through streaming platforms, social media clips, and video games. The cars never grow old because the stories keep finding new audiences. Unlike technology, great design rarely becomes obsolete. A beautiful car from 50 years ago can still stop people in their tracks today. Today, these legendary movie cars appear at conventions, museums, auctions, and automotive festivals all over the world. Dedicated collectors spend years searching for original screen-used vehicles or building incredibly accurate replicas. Some of these replicas cost hundreds of thousands of dollars because enthusiasts want to own a small piece of cinematic history. The original Aston Martin DB5 from James Bond sold for millions. Authentic Batmobiles are priceless museum pieces. Screen-used DeLoreans are treated almost like historical artifacts. It's amazing to think that machines originally built to entertain audiences have become cultural treasures preserved for future generations. Perhaps that's the greatest achievement of all. Cars are mechanical objects. They rust. Engines wear out. Paint fades. Technology becomes outdated. Yet somehow, the greatest movie cars escaped that fate. They became timeless. They transformed from machines into legends. Long after the credits rolled, long after the cameras stopped recording, and long after the actors moved on to different projects, these automobiles continued telling their stories. They continue inspiring artists, engineers, filmmakers, collectors, and dreamers around the world. They remind us that sometimes a machine can become much more than metal and rubber. It can become part of our imagination forever. So the next time you watch one of these films, pay close attention to the car. Notice how it's introduced. Notice how it's filmed. Notice how it moves, how it sounds, and how the camera treats it almost like another actor on screen. Chances are, by the end of the movie, you'll realize something incredible. The human stars may have carried the dialogue, but the car stole the show. If you enjoyed this journey through the most legendary movie cars ever created, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which movie car deserves the #1 spot in your opinion. And more importantly, which legendary vehicle did we miss that absolutely deserves to be featured in a future episode? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.